when we're talking about rights,
Yes,
and
sir.
we mentioned the issue of blood transfusion, and we mentioned the issue of Jehovah's Witness, the sect that don't usually accept blood transfusion. So that was when this case came up. I have not seen anything on the chat. Nobody has responded apart from Messi, who just spoke now.
If I may come in, sir. If I may come in, sir.
Please,
pardon me.
I think Idion is speaking.
Hello, sir.
Okay, Idion.
If I may come in, sir. Pardon me. I'm in transit, so I'm not really in the best of places and situations. So I have to keep my camera off. But I want to say that I totally agreed with the reasoning of the court, because a child who is not yet of full age and capacity to make legal decisions cannot be subjected to the decisions of his parents, especially judging by the fact that the right to freedom of religion and all of those. Now, if a child is not of full age and capacity, he cannot really fall victim, and the government now has a duty, going by the Child Rights Act, to protect the interests of the child over and above what the parents, may feel, because eventually the child may grow up and not adopt the religion of the parents. So I personally, I totally agree with the rationale of the courts that this child, any child in that situation, the government has a duty to preserve life, which supersedes every other right. The right to life is primary. It's the primary right. So even if the person is an adult, like the court argued, like the court decided, even if the person were an adult, then they could validly make that decision not to take blood transfusion. But in that situation, what I really had a problem with was the modality. It was more like a police thing. I don't think that jurisprudence is properly laid down. How they went about it, not the fact of what was done, but how they actually went about it. It wasn't very tidy. That's just my.
Is it the hospital or the parents that sued?
The way the action of the law was invoked, I think it was not very tidy. The way the power of the law was invoked.
There are two actions of the law. First is that of. Second is that of the parents suing. So which one are you referring to? Hello?
I'm referring.
Can you hear me?
I'm referring particular. Yes, I can.
Yes,
sir.
we can.
I particularly mean that of the courts, like that. It was the police. It was more like an administrative action. They filed.
Exactly.
I think there should be, the Child Rights Act. Funny enough, I don't think it created any institution. So now it shows that there's a loophole in the law. There's a lacuna. There should be a body created by the law to cater for the rights of children, just like NAPTIP.
The Child Rights Act is sufficient.
But the Child Rights Act does that already.
The Child Rights Act protects is extensive.
No, did it create anybody? Is there anybody in Nigeria now that is saddled with the responsibility of protecting the rights of children?
The law protects the rights of children.
No, every law, for example, EFCC came.
Now, if you go to, for example, in FCT here now,
section, sir.
That is what I'm saying now, that in FCT here, we have the gender department in FCT here, which protects the rights of children. You cannot do adoption of a child in FCT without going through the gender department. Do you understand it?
You just said gender department.
Yes.
But even that department, I'm sure that they still get some of their workings from the Child Rights Act as well.
From the Child Rights Act, that's the point I am making. I am happy that Idiom. Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you, sir.
Okay.
Yes, loud and clear, sir.
I am happy that you read this case. You know why? And that you changed your mind after reading it. We had a discussion after the class, and you earlier stated your earlier position was you do not agree with the court. Do you recall that?
I think yes, having seen the facts and read through
Beautiful.
it properly and
That's
seen
my
the reasoning of the court,
my point. That's
I
why I
now
said
agree with the court.
that's why I said everybody should go and read that case. And for some of us here who might not have read it, please go back and read it. And I think what I'll be doing is I'll be giving us cases like this. Maybe today I will
Fantastic.
give us another case you go and read, so that when we are talking medical law, you should have a faint idea, particularly
fantastic.
undecided authorities, why the court reached that decision, so that you don't take your position from what you read either in newspaper. It's always best to read the law report and the decision of the court. Okay, that having been said, can we jump straight into today's business? I have
Okay,
gone
sir.
through the.
So, sir, sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Can the mentees come up, or you want to make your introductory statement?
No,
I think
let them come up. Let
it's
them
best
come
for
up.
the mentees to come up. Okay.
Yes. I've
Okay,
gone through the slides, and I must say, as usual, that I am impressed both with the content of the slides and, of course, the design itself. So before they make their presentation, I want to salute the depth of their research. It is not peripheral. Yes,
great
they are
job,
mentees,
great job, mentees. Great job.
yes, I will say it. So when I'm saying this to boost your confidence while you're presenting, for you to know that you are on point. So over to you.
Okay, that's a nice opening by our mentor for the mentees. So letting you know that your slides are beautiful. So right now, let's get our presentation to meet
Not
that
just
slide.
the slides, the contents are rich.
Woo!
Yes.
So that means it has amazing material.
Yes. Not just the slides being beautiful, but the content of the slide is rich. But I will still speak to it after their presentation.
Okay, moving forward, group one, are you ready for your presentation? You have about 10 minutes for that presentation. Group one, if you're ready, please, you share your screen and your time starts now. Group one presenter, are you here, please?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Oh, you're okay.
The first presenter. Please, I want to plead with my group members. Can someone help me share the slide? I will need my phone as a resource point for the actual presentation because I'm not with my system, and I would really like to have the slide shared as well so that everybody can follow.
Okay, group members, please, can we make that possible? But while
we are doing that, Mercy, I saw a post here. Let me correct it. I said I learned about the two types of consent: informed consent and express consent. Well, this is partially correct, but not totally correct. So let's correct it. We have informed consent. There's only one type of consent, and that is informed consent. If you want to talk about a valid consent that the law will uphold, it is informed consent. Now, when you're talking about how to get that consent, we now say that there are two types, two ways rather.
Implied and express.
Beautiful. Implied and express. The implied consent has to be informed. The express consent has to be informed. So anything outside informed consent is invalid. Maybe before is invalid. We are done. Maybe with whole session, I will take a day out. Consent is elaborate. We are done. I'll take a day out. I will take a day out. Talk about consent. Elaborate. That will be my own bonus contribution. Talk about consent. You just understand. That will be my own bonus contribution. Anything you do so that you just understand what we are doing here. Healthcare. Anything you do in to a patient, healthcare and administration, there is no valid consent surrounding it. You are wasting your time, and you might most likely there is no valid consent surrounding it. You are wasting your time, and you might most likely go to the best of the interest of the patient. Your intention is beautiful. Or in the best of the interest of the patient, your intention is.
I think the echo has stopped now.
Yes, so I just needed to.
I think the echo has stopped now.
I just needed to sort that out. So I just needed to sort that out. So can we progress?
Okay. Mr. Dion, I think your slide is up now. You can, okay. Mr. Dion, I'm still hearing the echo now.
No, I didn't hear any right now.
Okay,
I think the echo has stopped.
When the screen was shared, the echo started. But do you think you can move on, or do we tell group 2 to take over?
Or should the group 2 go ahead while you put your house in order?
Let me try. I'll try to see if okay, the second person should go ahead. Let me try and see. I could maybe fix the screen from my own end.
Okay, that's fine. While group 1 is working on their slide, please, group 2 presenter, are you ready to take over? You have 10 minutes, please. Who is presenting for group 2, please? Okay, the slide has been shared again, and the echo is back.
Is this group 1 slide?
I think so. Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Is the echo still on? Yes,
the echo is still on. Yes, the echo is still on.
Actually still on.
That's a problem.
Can someone else try sharing this? Because I think it happens whenever the screen is shared.
Okay, can someone else share the screen?
Okay. I think this is better. This works. This is group 2, I presume. It is group 2?
Yes, please.
Okay, group 2 presenter, please.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm good to go. Can I proceed?
Okay. Adrian, please, what group are you presenting for, please?
I'm in group 1, but I'm good to go now if the echo has stopped.
Okay, is this your slide?
Yes, it is.
Okay, fine, then go ahead, please.
So I'll be talking on e-health, an overview of e-health. And please, can you go back to the previous slide?
I'm sorry, please. I also want to plead if your person sharing your screen could actually play the. It's not really as bold as it should be for us to read it easily. Does everyone have an issue with that?
I think you can actually zoom it on your phone if you tap and try.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
So I would just like us to look at the picture and e-health and overview. The picture really says it all. The cover page, like if you look at it, that is really a graphic representation of what an overview of e-health really is. Like if you look at it, you see the one with the light, the issue of research, knowledge, messages, search engine optimization, and how they all relate with health. Next slide, please. Thank you. We look at the definition. There's something we need to look at about e-health, first of all, before we proceed to define it. Now, personally, I don't like definitions. They try to box things into corners, and this doesn't really allow proper expression of concepts. It tends to limit the idea of the concept. So I'd like us to have a more expansive consideration of the concept in spite of the definition. Now, I also want us to understand that e-health is an emerging concept. It wasn't very popular prior to 1999. I think that was the year of Nigeria's democratic reversion after all the military. Then I particularly of them tend to want to lean towards excluding the other aspects. But this particular definition by the World Health Organization is one that has been able to cover, at least in a way, what the borders of e-health really are, the boundaries, so that you can actually see a full concept. The World Health Organization defines e-health as the cost-effective and secure use of information and communications technology in support of health and health-related fields. including healthcare services, health surveillance, health literature, and health education, knowledge, and research. If we look at that definition, some things jump into the light. Immediately you look at it, I was able to highlight those facts. Cost effective, secure, ICT, support of health and health-related fields. So you begin to see that then the examples that were made, the term including is used to show you that there are other examples. Next slide, please. So this is the idea of just to give you a cursory glance of what e-health really is. Now we look at the areas of application of e-health and the types. Sometimes you can call it types, but I didn't really agree with the word types, even though, but in the course of the research, some sources made use of the word types, others made use of the word areas of use or application. First of all, you see electronic health records. Electronic health records really has to do with the fact that e-health is able to enable communication of patient data between different healthcare professionals. Like, the issue of going to the hospital, getting your patient's card from the admin office, going to the doctor, then before you now move to the lab and all of those, they have to ask for your card and call the admin officer to bring your card. E-health has been able to handle all of this. There's the second part, the second type of area of application is computerized physician order entry. This is, a means of requesting diagnostic tests and treatments electronically and receiving the result. This means that, like, a doctor can make an order, treat you and handle your information and diagnose you and make information available to other people without actually being maybe sometimes present physically with you. Or even if it's present, but e-health has been able to facilitate this process. E-prescribing. Now doctors are able to prescribe medicine, treatment to patients, the printing of the prescriptions. We all know, like, there's a funny issue about the handwriting of doctors. It's very, very terrible. It's something that, sorry, due apologies to my colleague, Victor, who is a doctor, one of our group members. Everybody knows that doctors have a terrible handwriting. So, that it has been shown, the statistics that this issue of doctors' handwriting has led to a lot of deaths because sometimes it's not possible to interpret what they prescribe. But now e-health has been able to come in to do that. The clinical decision support system, it provides information electronically about protocols and standards for healthcare professionals to use in diagnosing and treating patients. So we can now share standardized information about treatment processes and how they should be gone about by the professionals themselves. Then there's telemedicine. Yes, this area is very important because most times people tend to want to take telemedicine as the universal set of e-health, while it is only a subset. It is just a part. Telemedicine has to do with physical and psychological diagnosis and treatments remotely. It could include the telemonitoring of patients, functions, and video conferencing. There's telerehabilitation. It's really much like telemedicine. It's just that it looks more into the therapy field. And there's telesurgery. This is where you use robotics, wireless communication, and surgeries are performed remotely. There's teledentistry. It's still the same concept, but just that in this situation, it applies more to dentists. And there's consumer health informatics. This is the use of electronic resources for medical topics by healthy individuals or patients. When you browse for symptoms of the sickness you think you are feeling, or maybe you had a particular set of symptoms, and you can hop into Google these days and just type it in, and you can have, insights as to what your symptoms, what diseases your symptoms may be related to. There is health knowledge management. This is an overview of latest medical journals. It can give you access to a lot of health information. Doctors could use this. For example, when I was preparing my slide, if it was a few years back, prior to the advent of e-health, I may have needed to call my colleague Victor, or maybe go to a hospital or their library, ask him for his books, what did he learn. But these days, I can just sit in the comfort of my home and, type away, and I'll get access to thousands of pages of health information, even in advanced healthcare. There's virtual healthcare teams. Sometimes there may be need to, coordination of care. Patients may have, what they call this issue of, like, a patient may have a situation that needs two or more, professionals to work together to deliver care to him. Comorbidity, it could be comorbid, like there are other, maybe someone is sick, has malaria, his leg is broken, he's an old person, he needs therapy and all of that. So in this situation, you see, there can be coordination of care between the various, disciplines of healthcare. Then there's mobile health or M-health. I think this is where any of the sections of e-health is now reduced into a mobile device, be it all the ones I've mentioned and the ones I'll mention even after. Wherever these are now made accessible through a mobile device, we now have M-health, mobile health. Then you can also have medical research, health informatics, and healthcare information systems. This could even go into areas of health insurance, how you're able to manage health information and use it for decision making. Also for research, internet-based sources for public healthcare. It's the medical research using groups have various aspects. I would just not like us to dwell so much on that for want of time. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, something interested me really. There was this very area of curiosity about e-health. If you look at the slide, you will notice that the pros and cons, there are no disadvantages and there are no advantages. There's just one set of information there. I noticed that the advantages of e-health only work in ideal situations. Normally in the industry, you notice that e-health, the advantages most times double as the disadvantages as well. If we start with the issue of saving time, okay, ordinarily e-health should save time. But by the time my data is slow, I cannot get access to proper healthcare because time runs along. Ordinarily, electronic health is supposed to make it faster. Quickly I can always get access to healthcare. But now, where I now cannot get access to fast internet service, you see, the issue that should be an advantage ends up becoming a disadvantage. Accuracy, we see a lot of conflicting information. This doubles with efficacy as well. Like today, you listen to you be on the Twitter space, you see a Proco doctor will come and say that pineapples are very nice. Another day, another person will come and tell you that when you take the pineapple with butter or something, it could become a problem. How do we verify the accuracy
please,
of this
Mr.
information?
You have 2 minutes more, please.
Okay, please, next slide. Sorry. I thought the presentations were for 20 minutes. Have I used 7 minutes already?
For 10 minutes, for 10 minutes.
Mine is for 10.
Yes, 10 minutes. They are both 10 minutes.
If we look at the challenges of e-health, e-health has a couple of challenges: the technical area, the legal area, the socio-cultural, and other areas. The technical area is poor infrastructure. There's no internet access, electricity in some communities. The personnel are not properly skilled to do all of this. There's limited access to electronic health facility. There's poor integration of systems. Legal issues, you discover that there's no adequate law. There are no adequate laws to govern e-health. There's no standardization of the ethics and the standards that should be held when providing healthcare. Then if you look at issues of patient rights and data privacy, you discover that there's a problem, there's a lacuna there. The sociocultural issue, a lot of the patients are illiterate. Some of them are just distrustful of the system. If you look at this, some people are just fetish and superstitious about anything that has to do with internet, and they tend to be reluctant to apply this. There's a language barrier. Most of these services are not provided in local languages that the people can understand. Other areas is issues of credibility. Sometimes you don't get complete information of electronic health, and then you can also have inadequate funding from the government, and then poor implementation of policy strategies. Recommendations, I would like to recommend that a lot of scholars also have recommended that there should be specific laws to cater for electronic health. We can develop a standardized and universal system and code of ethics to handle e-health. We could be regular and consistent in educating the personnel that will actually take this area. There should be widespread and continuous sensitization of the public. We should actually sensitize the people to know that it's not that harmful. They can adopt it. It's not so hurtful. Then there should be increased funding.
Mr. Please, are you still there? Are you still there, please?
Are you there?
Since we have lost him.
I think we lost him.
Okay, we can hear you now. Please kindly begin to round off.
Yeah, so we will need to create frameworks to monitor that these strategies we have developed are properly implemented. Next slide, please.
Kindly begin to round off, please.
So we want to look at recent developments. The Africa Health Strategy is a way of making governments in Africa to, adopt technology in improving healthcare. COVID-19, we all know, I need not say the effect that COVID-19 had on health. And recently, we look at artificial intelligence, and we all know that it's going to actually change the face of every professional endeavor in the world, including healthcare. Next slide, please. I really want to thank you all for listening to me. Sorry about the issue of timing.
Okay. Thank you so much. Oh my God, like I could pay to attend that lecture. That was amazing. That was amazing. For anyone who has never heard of eHealth before, I would say you did an amazing job, a fantastic job with that presentation. I see why the mentor was already giving kudos to the slides. They were beautiful and you were so clear and unequivocal in your statements. Really, really nice.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Group 2, are you ready, please?
Someone help me share my slides, please.
Okay. Group 2 presenter, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I just need someone to help share my
Okay,
slides.
Dr. Victor, right?
Yes, that's me.
Oh, this is your field then. Okay, Dr. Victor, you have 10 minutes for your presentation. Please, your time starts now. Can the group members please help me share the slides? Thank you. I'm really impressed with this class. Like, it's really amazing. Whoa. Mr. Victor, but you could actually comment while this slide is being shared, if you can, please.
Okay. I think I'll just share from my end. I wanted to make some comments that were not on the slides as I was going through the slides, but since there's no one to share, sorry. Okay. Okay. Can you all see my slides?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Right. So
yes.
I'll take in the next topic, which is a logical follow-up from the first topic on the overview of e-health. And I'm talking about the legal issues. Can we hear me?
Please, loud and clear. Yes, please, loud and clear.
All right.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
We can hear you.
So in my outline, I'll be discussing the technologies themselves and following up from what Idiongo has just expatiated on. Then I'll talk about some of the current legal frameworks that apply to health technologies. And then next, I'll be talking about some of the legal issues I was able to touch upon when I was doing my research. And I hope it to be an interesting discussion for everyone. So like Idiongo said, e-health is the application of information and communication technologies to health. And of course, it's to improve the health access and delivery systems. I mean, if something was
Hello, Mr. Victor. Doctor, did we lose you, please?
perfect, there'll be no need to improve it, right? But e-health is a way of using the advantages. So I just put some bit of backstory as to prior to the advent of e-health, you talk about the shortage of health services and the poor ratio of health services to people that need them. And you talk about how technology comes in and sort of makes it easy to scale up the available resources to a larger number of people. The same way we talk about other industries like communication, social media, etc., where access to these things were usually limited by geographical location and some of those other things. But technology just came in, and now you can speak to someone from miles across the world, and you can speak to millions of people at the same time. So that's the same idea of when you look at the intersection of technology and healthcare. So of course, with that, it also brings in its own unique challenges to what traditional healthcare systems were used to. Of course, we know that the legal system and healthcare they are called two of the noble professions, and that's because it's historically has been known that both of them are interlinked, right? But so of course it means that when you're introducing something into healthcare, it means that of course there has to be some adjustments in the legal framework to address them. But before I go there, I would just like to touch on some of the health technologies that we'll probably be hearing of every day. Telemedicine. I don't really need to expatiate on all this, since Diongo has done a good job of doing that. Telemedicine, AI, blockchain. Those are some of the things that are involved in both the healthcare delivery and even protection of healthcare information, making things easier to work with. You have wearable devices that help us track our everyday data, so that you don't have to be maybe making logs by yourself or writing stuff on a piece of paper, things like that. Robotics, 3D printing. Some of these are like the top terms you hear when you talk about emerging health technologies. So now going into something that's more related to why we are here, some of the current existing legal frameworks. I'd like to mention that a lot of these that I highlighted are from the US and Europe, and so I could not really find a lot of at least a strong or maybe standardized frameworks in Nigeria. But so I'll just touch on the ones I found. So the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, that's in the United States. It's based on a federal law that standardizes how health information of patients should be protected. And of course, this means that anytime a company is developing an health device or an health application, these standards have to be upheld, especially when the company is based in the United States or has to diversify its reach or its network to the United States. This HIPAA law Accountability Act would always there will always be security checks to make sure that those applications or those devices they tick all the boxes according to codes of the HIPAA Act. Then going on, we have the GDPR. This one is a more common one, and it applies to the whole of Europe, and it's something similar to HIPAA in terms of protecting the privacy and security of patients' personal data. The third one is Food and Drug Administration. Though not in the same line of patient information, this is more of the use of medical devices on patients and ensuring that these devices are they are safe and they are efficacious for what they are said to do. The fourth framework I'll talk about is and we also touched upon it in our last session, on Medicare and Medicaid services, also in the United States as well. This one mostly talks about the intersection of insurance and payment systems to health, and how there are adjustments for the modern or the technological side of healthcare now that there's a lot more integration of digital health and all that. So it establishes payment policies for telehealth and other health areas. And then the fifth one I felt was relevant was the Federal Trade Commission, which is generally on consumer protection, but in the context of health. So it can be discussed as a strong legal framework for health technologies. Then moving on, I'll talk about some of the legal issues that I felt were pertinent to e-health. So of course, the first thing is liability. This just means that you're asking the question, okay, who is to be held responsible? And of course, when you're asking that question, you're trying to find out, okay, when something goes right, who do we praise? When something goes wrong, who do we hold accountable? So that's where the issue of liability comes in. And of course, like I said, traditional healthcare was always known that, okay, the patient comes to the doctor administers or hypothesizes what the condition is and administers a treatment, right? So of course, you know that if something goes wrong, is it that the patient did not give the proper information, or the doctor did not use the information to deliver proper service? And of course, at each point of that delivery network, you know who is to be held responsible. But you know, when e-health came in, you can't tell, is it the company that produces, or is it the doctor that uses that application, or is it maybe when the patient doesn't use the application well? Those issues with liability are important issues to talk about when you talk about e-health. So I mentioned some things here that digital health providers needing to be careful about how they deliver the maybe information about how to use their products, for example, because if you don't give people the proper instructions on how to use your application, for example, like, then you'll be held responsible, because people could, like the consumers could as well just say that, okay, fine, I was not informed that, okay, this was how I was supposed to use this, right? So that's like a way to
Please, Dr.
explain
Victor,
this
you
thing.
have 2 minutes more, please.
Yes, thank you. So I highlighted some measures that can be used to mitigate this. I talked about providing clear instructions, maintaining accurate records, so at least these things can be checked when a legal issue comes up. Then, of course, conducting risk assessments before the product is released and even after the product is released. The next one is data privacy. This is, of course, as the name speaks, talks about like protecting the information of patients from like cyber attacks and all that. So the same thing I talked about under HIPAA and some of those other regulatory frameworks, it's the idea is to protect the patient's data from being leaked and being used for purposes that are not within the structure of delivering healthcare. So I talked about some measures that are practices for protecting people's data. I talked about data encryption, data backup and recovery, of course, security audits, like I've mentioned earlier with those organizations. A third issue was the issue of antitrust, and that's more due to, that's more in keeping with acquisitions and mergers that occur, especially in the healthcare sector. So our legal frameworks are worried that, okay, when there's an acquisition, for example, how is a patient's data protected from one company to the other when there's like a merger or something? So some of the ways to mitigate this antitrust scrutinies that come up will be making sure that you self-regulate, making sure that data is portable enough. So a patient that wishes to maybe migrate their data from one service to the other, it's very clear how to do that. And
Dr. Victor, please begin to round off, please.
All right, thank you. Then the last one I'll talk about is patients' rights and safety, and that sort of encompasses all the other things I've mentioned, and how that a company, a digital health company or e-health company, has the duty to protect its subscribers' privacy and data from breaches and cyber attacks. And of course, that's where the point of informed consent in this context of e-health comes in. The patients must know what their data is going to be used for and what measures are being taken to safeguard their data. So in conclusion, I'd like to round up by saying that this emerging technology, they have the potential to transform healthcare and delivery, like I've explained. But of course, they also raise significant legal concerns that must be addressed. By addressing these legal issues, we can ensure that these technologies are used responsibly and provide the benefits that they promise to patients and health providers alike. These are my references, and these are my team members. Thank you very much for listening.
Wow, another amazing presentation. Dr. Victor, that was really beautiful. Indeed, I would see why our mentors said, your slides are so amazing. The slides are beautiful. They are very self-explanatory. Awesome job, sir. Awesome job. So I'll be handing over to our erudite and quintessential mentor, Mr. Benisa, please, sir. The floor is yours.
Yes,
let's get your thoughts on the slide and as well as your thoughts on everything.
Okay. Let me once again celebrate the two groups for incisive research. Yes. Very, very deep. The depth of research is good. Then the presentation, management of time, they had to rush and read through. But I want to encourage every member of each group. I know that when you do group work, but your groups are smaller in size. So if it's large group, you just have maybe 20%, 10% of the people doing the work, and every other person is a member. So I want to encourage every member of the group, pick up the work, read it. Read that of your group, read that of the other group, and vice versa. That's one. Then a few points to note. On group 2, that was the second presentation we had now. You mentioned HIPAA, but you didn't tell us what HIPAA is, even though you did in passing. I need to explain that further. And there's another document to HIPAA. Now, HIPAA basically is like a right. It's actually an act, but it confers on the patient a right for that patient's information not to be leaked or released to a third party. Now, in the US, HIPAA applies generally from persons between 18, like young adults, between 18 years and 25, 2020, between 18 years, 22. Now, it doesn't mean that it doesn't apply in other cases. Why I say it applies here is because, this is a borderline between independence from parental guidance and you staying on your own. Hello, can anyone hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir, very well. We can hear you very well, sir.
Okay. So the implication of HIPAA is that if for instance, for an example, a 19-year-old child is in coma, his medical information cannot be given to his parents, regardless of the fact that these are this person's parents. Their institutions are that strong. So what do? You seek for a HIPAA waiver. I needed to bring this perspective in. You seek for a HIPAA waiver by the patient. So if you have HIPAA, you now sign a waiver that in the event you are in a situation where you cannot consent to your information being given to a third party, you are waiving you sign it and they attach it to your file. So whenever such need arises, the HIPAA waiver applies. If there is no HIPAA waiver, there's nothing anybody can do about it. That is one. Second important document that is related to HIPAA is medical power of attorney. We have not gotten to that stage here, but over there is a big issue. Now, medical power of attorney authorizes a second party. Last week, we talked about consent. We talked about informed consent. We talked about the patient being the lord of his body and determining what could be done over his body. We talked about patient's autonomy last week. So, medical power of attorney also authorizes a third party to make medical treatment decisions on behalf of an adult patient. If you do not, that's over there. Here we are still finding our way. If you do not have a medical power of attorney, provided that patient is an adult and can make his own decisions, if you don't have a medical power of attorney, there is nothing you can do about it. The doctor, you now revert to medical paternalism, where the doctor becomes the lord over the patient and does whatever he feels is in the best interest of the patient without anybody's intervention. So I needed to bring that perspective. Then on food, and you talked about not getting a local equivalent of some of these acts and laws. We have their local equivalents. For Food and Drug Administration, that's exactly what our NAFDAC does here. So it's important, while this is rich, it's important that we also bring in our local contents. What is obtainable within our continent, so that it can serve as a gauge or a measure of how we are trying to catch up, or how we are copying and pasting or trying to replicate what is happening out there. Beyond Nigeria, this session now is an international session. We have mentees from other countries. So although the host is Nigeria, I would encourage us, even in your groups, give us a perspective of what is happening in your country. So if you are doing your research, you can say African perspective, Nigeria, 2-3 points, Ghana, 2-3 points, Zambia, 2-3 points, so that we have a robust view. And within our own continent, we can also see what we can borrow from the other countries and say, okay, how are they doing it in Ghana? How are they doing it in Togo? How are they doing it in Egypt? Then we can compare and use that to also benchmark what is happening outside and how we are growing towards that. For group one, am I done with group two? Okay. For group one, Mr. Victor, I said not Victor, Mr. Odion, when you talked about, yes, Odion, when you talked about the definition of e-health and you complained about the definition not being all-encompassing, I expected you to fill the gap. That's the essence of the research. Yes. That's the essence of the research. What I gave you last week as definition of patients' rights is my definition. I didn't read it in any textbook. In the course of my study and search, I discovered that there was no clear-cut definition of what patients' rights are. People were talking about explanation. Okay, patients' rights consists of right to informed consent, right to privacy, right to this, right. Is that a definition? No. So I began to tinker until I got that. I ran it through a professor of medical and ethics. I sent it to him. I said, Prof, this is a definition I came up with for what patients' rights should be. He looked at it and said, Beniza, it's okay. Then he said I should remove some things because it was longer than this. And in my definition, I incorporated the sources of the rights. He said, no, there's no need of putting the sources. Leave it as this. He didn't put one word there. He just said, remove that sources. So I expect you, when you are researching and you run into a lacuna, give us your opinion. Feel that.
But sir, sorry, sir, I don't like. I said that I don't like definitions personally. Like, I don't like that concept should be boxed up. Like, the concept should be expansively defined.
That is what I expect from you. You don't like it. What are you doing to change it? You don't like it. I expected you, if you say this definition is limited, they are boxing, open the box. In fact, throw away the box. Give us 10-page definition. Then we look at it. Yes, that is how knowledge gets expanded.
Rightly guided, sir. Rightly guided. Thank you, sir.
When you bring that up, what it's going to do is that people will attack it first. If it stands the test, it will stand. If it cannot withstand the test, it collapses. You learn and you go back. So if we keep on relying on what has been done before we came on board, there will be no progress. So I want us to, yes, here in Africa, we are not scientifically and technologically savvy as the developing or as the developed world as they are, but then we shouldn't limit ourselves and submit to whatever they give us. So this goes to the mentees going forward. I want to see your opinion. Don't ever think that your definition is too local or cannot stand. No. You have your own brain. So what I want going forward is, in fact, going forward, when they finish their definition, whatever you see that has been researched upon, and you chance upon it, when you are done, tell me your opinion. Tell me what you think about that definition or your own very definition. We match it side by side and we make progress. We may end it here. If we look at it and it's good, we take it forward. Just believe it. Anytime I appear on television and I want to talk about patients' rights, I give my definition and I tell the host that this is my definition of patients' rights. Yes. So let anybody who feels that it is not elaborate enough or inclusive enough or clear enough, let the person come and question it. Then we take the words, we extract the definition. I will learn from the person could learn from me. So that's basically that. Apart from these few contributions, like I said earlier, the slides are self-explanatory, but let me go to legal issues that was raised by, I think, the second presenter. Issue of liability, and just talk about it so that we have. Okay, you were asking a question whether is it the manufacturer of the, maybe let's say a robot now that is supposed to be used for surgery, and the robot, for whatever reason, goes crazy and begins to misbehave. Now, the person that will be held liable, provided that the guidelines he gave was followed, is the manufacturer. In that instance, the person that will be held liable, provided that the step-by-step guidelines or manual he gave was followed to the letter. And if anything goes wrong, that manufacturer should be held liable. Now, why should he be held liable? If you talk about the law of thoughts, you talk about duty of care, you talk about who your neighbor is, or the good neighbor principle. So the manufacturer could have averted his mind to the possibility of this thing going crazy, and also get countering that such that it will never occur. One. Two, he could have also, he's supposed to have test run. If this thing decides to go crazy, what extent of damage can it do? What if it goes crazy and the craziness is just to stop functioning, instead of just suturing and puncturing everywhere? What if it goes, okay, just pause, no work? What it means is that the doctors could revert quickly to manual. They could save life. But where it goes crazy and begins to puncture anything that is close to it, it will end up killing the patient that is supposed to save. So if it is taken up legally, the manufacturer will be held liable. Then I once again want to commend all your work. The research is wonderful, and they are self-explanatory. That is what is most important. So I want to yield the mic to the moderator and receive your questions so that we make progress.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you so much. Before we go to the questions, the mentees have sent some already, which will be posted to the chat box soon. If there are any live questions, please get them ready. At this point, it's picture time, mentees. Please do what to turn on your cameras and smile for the camera, and let's take some pictures that will go out. So please just smile for the camera and let's take some pictures. Everyone, please do what to turn on your camera and do what to smile, do what to smile. Doctor, are you on call? Okay. So we're taking some shots. Samantha, please, can you smile? Esther. This is my favorite part with JIIPCC, aside the lectures, the picture time. So, okay, one last picture. Okay, Mr. Hussein, I like that smile. Okay,
Samantha, are you shy?
Samantha, are you shy? Okay, thank you
I'm
so
using
much.
phone, so it's acting however it was.
Okay. Okay, so I'll be posting the questions from our mentees in the chat box. Please, if you have a live question here at JIIPCC, we also advise mentees to send live questions because it helps. Some things that are confusing that are really nice to come through. I like how our mentor handled the fact of AI is having issues. Normally, regulations for AI is already have the fact that where an AI is actually faulty, the manufacturer has duty of care to ensure that the right data has been programmed and sent into that AI. So you don't sell an AI that is faulty. At that point, it's more like a vicarious liability to, for a strict liability to the manufacturer of the AI because they should have given something that was fit for the purpose. Okay, sir, I have sent the questions to the chat box. I would read them now. First question there is, how can the regulatory bodies continually perform ongoing monitoring and audits, especially with portability of health data of national citizens to international organizations?
Okay, before we take this question, I said I was going to read out something in relation to telemedicine. I'm reading section 22 of the Code of Medical Ethics so that we understand. It says telemedicine, a professional opportunity outcome of modern advances in computer and telecommunication technology, is steadily creeping into professional practice in Nigeria. It is medicine requested and practiced at a distance, and it is particularly useful for patient care and management by general practitioners and specialists in assessing telesupport in their daily practices on the basis of requirements for specialist consultation in various specialties of medicine and dentistry. It is of ethical importance it's of ethical significance for registered practitioners to continuously assess and avoid medical legal pitfalls in areas such as confidentiality, professional competence, legal and registration status of the specialist being consulted, equipment reliability, sustainable continuity of patient management, and timely referral of patients. Electronic processing. A practitioner must make appropriate arrangement for the security of personal information when it is stored, sent or received by fax, computer, email, or other electronic means. Information must be kept secure before connecting to a network. You should ensure that data sent cannot be intercepted or seen by anyone other than the intended recipients. Practitioners should, however, be aware that information sent by email through the internet may be intercepted. Now, this is the provision of Medical Code of Ethics as it relates to telemedicine. I told us last week that there is a provision. So today, since we discussed it more elaborately, I felt it's important that we have this perspective that even the Code of Medical Ethics is already sounding alarm, warning to healthcare providers or healthcare practitioners who intend to venture into this area of practice and warning them about pitfalls that could, if a hacker hacks into a hospital's system to take information or to steal information of a patient, don't you think the hospital will be liable?
Of course, they should be held liable because they have by data privacy laws, they're meant to protect take adverse measures to protect the information of the
Beautiful.
patient.
So,
mentees, are we here?
Hello? So
Hello, mentees, are we here, please?
Yes, I'm here. But the issue of the liability now, when the source and the statements of rules, setting down the rules and the procedures are not really well defined, it's a bit tricky in placing the liability. Looking at, is it the ISP? There's the ISP, an intermediary. There's the medical
There's something called the
professional.
NITDA. There's NITDA. Don't forget that when it comes to tech, different laws are coming in now. NITDA comes into play.
Now,
and NITDA
now,
and NDPR.
the patient has a contract with the hospital.
Exactly.
The hospital could have a contract with a third party, internet service provider, whose responsibility is to build a hack-proof system whereby their information cannot be taken without their permission.
But sir, most times, sorry sir, to interrupt you, most times there's no brick and mortar hospital in the real sense of it. For example, a Aproko doctor does not have a hospital. So when you begin to look at
it does not.
It makes it a bit fluid. It's difficult to place liability on a party.
Now what Aproko doctor,
but he does not have a patient.
Let's talk. Yes, that's what I want to say.
Telemedicine, it's e-health. He's doing it. How do we place liability?
He's giving his personal opinion on medicine.
People believe him very well. Like a lot of people.
I understand you. Let me tell you what Aproko doctor is doing. What Aproko doctor is doing is information dissemination.
Thank you.
As it relates to health, Aproko doctor is not doing prescription. He's not doing diagnosis. You even hear him tell you, if this symptom persists, go and see your doctor. He even does more of dietary recommendations.
Do you
understand?
Encouraging
people to take more of fruits. Encouraging people to take more of fruits.
No, he talks about a whole lot of other things. So I
understand.
Like, this is the problem I have with definition.
Let me learn. You will talk. Let me learn.
Okay.
Let me learn.
Sorry, sir. Sorry.
So now what he does, a Aproko doctor does not have a patient who has paid for his professional expertise.
No relationship.
Do you understand? So at that point, there is no contract.
That's all.
The converse is this: you have put yourself out that you are a consultant with so and so qualification. You have a hospital you are working with, even if it is virtual hospital. Because if we talk telemedicine, we are talking about virtual hospital now. So a patient calls, you receive the call, you hear the patient's complaints. You go into you clack the patient. After clacking, what symptoms do you have? What symptoms do you present? When did this start? While you are doing this, inside your brain, you are saying, okay, it is possible to be this, it is possible to be this. Then the patient, you might even have a form for the patient to fill. The patient fills his information, his age, his medical history, and sends to you. You now, in response, make prescriptions. Go buy XYZ, go buy XYZ. And this is just between you and the patient.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, the patient sees this confidential information on social media. Do you get it?
Sir?
There is a breach of the patient's information, of the patient's right to confidentiality and privacy. There is a breach there. So the patient begins to, okay, doctor, what is, you say, sorry, in fact, our hello?
Someone saying something.
He has a DMO. You'll be surprised to know that he has a DM, a direct message. If you are opportune to see his DM, sir, you'll be surprised that people actually now approach
Mr. Edion, basically, in health law, we're also talking law most of the times. You can't go to court to sue a Aproko doctor.
I want us to restrict ourselves to the context.
Exactly.
If a Aproko doctor has DM and people approach him and he charges consultation, he's a medical doctor.
That's a legal relationship.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. If he charges for consultation and he makes prescription. Now, I need you to understand that that is different from what he does on social media.
Very correct.
At that point, he's wearing his professional cap as a qualified medical doctor and has taken up, once you send him consultation fee, you have engaged him at a contract level. So if your information goes out without your permission, he is liable.
Very correct.
Yes, he is. If your information goes out without your permission, he is liable. Maybe someone is treating, let's say, HIV, even though the stigma has reduced, but then we are African. I am telling you the truth. I wrote my project on the rights of persons living with HIV and AIDS. And it was not a work I sat in the library to put together. No, it was a field work. I went to hospitals in Lagos. My school is in Abuja, but I went to hospitals in Lagos. I went to NGOs in Lagos dealing with persons with HIV to interact with them, to ask questions. I went to specialist hospital here in Gwagwalada to ask, in fact, where they are receiving their antiretroviral drug, I walked in there to ask questions to see them. And one of my recommendations was that center was written, God help me now, special ward then. And I queried it and I said, why should it be special word? If you people say you are fighting HIV, give it a face, write HIV/AIDS word. Let people know what it is. If you have ear and T, you have male surgical ward, you have accident and emergency, why have special word here? Put HIV/AIDS. Let people begin to get acquainted with it. Now, why I brought this story is that when I went to Lagos, I asked a doctor, please, sir, where do they have HIV treatment center here? The doctor, in responding to me, began to draw back as he was talking to me and he was stepping back. Do you understand that? And he began to gesticulate. Okay, when you pass here, you follow here, you follow here. As he's talking to me, he's drawing back. A medical doctor. So that experience
the stigma is real.
A little idea of what these persons go through. Do you get it? So if a patient that is receiving care, even making inquiry, saying, okay, Aproko doctor, I went to run a test and this is my situation. Please, what do I do? What do I do? Maybe this is a chat. All of a sudden, that chat is all over Facebook. How do you think the patient should feel?
It's a breach.
So he should be
I totally agree.
Yes, go ahead.
It's a breach. It's a breach. I totally agree. It's a breach. In that circumstance, it's a breach.
Beautiful. So that's what we are saying. But if you just come up today, or any of you now, after this session, you go on Facebook and say, wow, we had a wonderful session in our mentorship class today. I learned this. I felt I should share it with you. This. Or, okay, I came up, I chanced upon patients, right? Do you know that you when you go to hospital, you should ensure that the doctor explains everything to you so that you can make what we call informed consent. And you leave it there and you go away. You are not liable for anything. Number one, you have not put yourself out as a professional. You have not collected anybody's money. Even if you are treating the person free, his information should not go out like that. So
So are you saying money is a primary element of creating a legal relationship between the patient and the doctor?
That was why I said even if you are treating the person free.
Free, exactly.
Once, in fact, by our laws,
But there was
a
a
doctor is
consideration.
not, yes, even without consideration, a doctor is not bound to treat a patient. If a doctor is maybe in a vehicle and there's an accident and he comes out unhurt, he knows he's a doctor and he sees patients lying wounded and all that, and he decides to keep mute. He has not committed any offense.
Wow.
He has not done anything wrong. Yes. Now,
it makes me think of the parable of the Good Samaritan.
I'm coming now. There's a converse to this. I'm not done with my story. Now,
okay.
If he jumps out and sees someone with broken limb and say, yes, I am a medical doctor. I have been in practice for 5 years. I do this. Once he makes that pronouncement and every other person gives him space and he begins to attend to that patient, he is expected to treat that patient to the highest standard of a doctor of his standing. So it will not be an escape route for him to say it was an accident. I was just helping him. I didn't mean this. I was just helping. Once he opens his mouth to say, I am a medical doctor, I can take care of this situation, he is expected to treat that person to the minimum standard, bearing in mind that, okay, there are no equipment. This happened along the express. They are not in the hospital. But the basic first aid to sustain that person to get to the nearest hospital where he can get help. He shouldn't do anything short of that. So once a doctor commits, now, don't forget that the person he's coming to help has not paid him 1 naira. So there is a legal relationship. That's the point I'm making. Once you come out and say, I am a medical doctor, you have committed yourself.
Wonderful, sir. I'm enjoying this show. Sir, the insights.
Today,
thank you so much.
JIIPCC mentors. Why, Dr. Victor?
It's wonderful.
Dr. Victor.
So that
is it. Once you come out and represent yourself as a medical doctor, you have committed yourself. But if I am a lawyer, as I am, and we're in the same vehicle, and I say, okay, blood is rushing, tie here. I am not a doctor. Tie here, tie here. If anything goes wrong, nobody will hold me liable for doing anything. I was just using my native intelligence and traditional wisdom to do what I'm doing, because I am not a trained medical.
I have a question, a funny question.
Please go ahead, fire.
What if you, as a lawyer,
yes,
you now hold yourself out to be a doctor, and you
don't
act in that kind of situation?
That is criminal.
Oh.
Misrepresentation, exactly.
Yes, that is criminal.
This is interesting.
In fact, impersonation.
I do medical law. Oh. They have asked me questions on national TV. And I told the person I am not a medical doctor. I've said it more than 5 times. On radio, people call and say, in fact, there's a time I ran a program on human rights radio for 2 years, 2018 to 2020. Every Friday, I was volunteering to discuss patients' rights. And it was live, people phoning. In fact, the funniest thing is the host who want to introduce me say, we have in the studio Dr. Ebenezer. And I'll say, no, I am a lawyer. And
that
people
kind of impersonation.
People will phone and say, hey, that doctor in the studio, doctor, thank you for. I say, no, I am a lawyer. Do you get it?
Very well.
I was being interviewed by Kaftan TV some time ago on organ harvesting and kidney transplants. And they asked me, okay, where can people go to get these services within the country or in Abuja? I said, no, I am not a doctor. I'm a lawyer. I can't make such referrals. This is television. If I open my mouth now and talk, somebody will say, Ebenezer referred us to. I'm a lawyer, I'm not a doctor. So I don't have the capacity to make medical referrals. I can't even tell you to go and buy paracetamol and drink. If I do it, and you take the, do you understand? If I'm posing as a doctor and say, okay, go and buy paracetamol, that is crime. I am not a doctor.
Very
Hello,
correct,
Dr.
sir.
Victor. Yes, so that is it. We must
Same way lawyers can sue for impersonation of anyone impersonating a
we
lawyer.
must know where the lines are drawn and maintain our lane. That I do medical law does not make me a doctor. No, it doesn't. In fact, what I'm doing in medical law is the legal aspect of medicine. We are telling doctors what the law says about medical practice. We are not doing medicine. We are saying this is what the law says, how you should practice your medicine. So, your question.
Okay, so I'll move to number 2, sir.
Have we taken number 1?
Okay, I thought you did. Say, how can the regulatory bodies continually perform ongoing monitoring and audits, especially with portability of health data of national citizens to international organizations and companies?
Okay. Firstly, it's unfortunate that Nigeria is not a data-oriented nation. It is quite unfortunate. It is very, very, very unfortunate. Secondly, is that illiteracy and hunger and poverty works against enforcement of certain rights. Do you understand? If we were in a developed country where privacy is everything, where you know, here we are communal people. In Africa generally, we are communal people. My brother, my sister, my father, my grandfather, my great-great-grandfather, my cousin, everybody is called brother or sister in Africa. It is English people that taught us cousin, auntie. All we know here is brother. Even if you are once you are from the same state, he's my brother. Once you speak the same, like he's my brother. So we are communal people here. But how do we tackle this challenge? Firstly, is to begin to educate people. When people know their rights, when people know the damage that this information could be used to do against them, when people know the far-reaching effects, okay, identity theft now, where you can carry somebody's information and plaster it on another person's information. Do you get it? So you discover that for us to regulate, firstly, we must have standardization. If we have standardization, 2, we must have a data bank that we can match information. If you are saying you stole my information, if you are saying you leaked my stuff, how can we trace that this information belongs to you and you alone? Okay, look at our names. There are certain places you go, you just hear the same name, 10 people bearing the same name and surname. Do you understand? So there are certain regions you get to, you hear the same name and surname. So if let's say that this is Musa Abdullahi, and that is your name, Musa Abdullahi. And in your local government alone, there are 50 people bearing Musa Abdullahi. How do we know that the information that is circulating, it is your own Musa Abdullahi that we are talking about? So we must begin to have, when I say data, proper data banking is data that is linked to each person. If we are saying we are using our national identification number now, my data should be linked to that. So that means if I'm going to hospital, my NIN is attached to my hospital information, such that if you hear another Ebenezer Iguatu tomorrow. You should be able to differentiate. So if we now have standardization, first of all, storing information. What information do we receive from patients? If you are storing patients' data, how do we identify the patient? Okay, his name, his state of origin, his age, and all that, and all that, and all that. Then you move further. His national identity number, which is distinct. So if you now say Ebenezer Iguatu, male, this, you can even put occupation, fine. My own Ebenezer Iguatu is a lawyer. The other Ebenezer Iguatu could be a farmer. The other Ebenezer Iguatu could be a business person. So if we have standardization in information.
Hello, everyone. Is it just me or is it frozen to everyone as well, please?
Yes, we can't hear you anymore.
Okay, Mr. Benitez, can you hear us? Because we can't hear from you anymore. Okay, I think he's having some major setbacks with his network, and we're already way past our time. So let's just see the next 1 minute if he would return. But honestly, mentees, it's been a really amazing session. He's in one, oh, and he's off. I think it's network then. It's been an amazing session, a truly enlightening session. And I don't know if our mentor can return. He was meant to give the case. I think he will send the case to the organizers of JIIPCC to send over to the mentees.
Our mentor is on our group chat, so the general group chat for the health tech and law. So he will send it
fine
to the group.
Fine, that's perfect then. So thank you so much. I look forward to an amazing session with this class. It's really been amazing. I'll also advise us to read up laws like the NITDA, read laws like in NDPR 2019. It also helps us to understand some things with data protection with regards to health laws and how to transfer data. Mr. Hussein, thank you very much. I'll be signing out and giving up to you over now. Thank you so much for an amazing time. Thank you. Hello, Mr. Hussein.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, I'm already on transit. I don't know. Okay, yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, moderator, Mr. Goslow, for a wonderful moderation today. Thank you very much for stepping in from the start when my network was fluctuating. Thank you very much, all the group members that made research, for the teamwork, and for everything you do. We truly appreciate here from our own end at JIIPCC in Abuja. So I will say a goodbye to everyone and have a wonderful weekend. I think we've waited a few minutes for Mr. Ebenezer to join the call, and he's still not here. So I think you can just
call it
end the call. Yes, maybe he can continue from the next session. Kindly note that we'll be having Mr. Ebenezer on all our sessions for the whole of the
I'll be here.
mentorship program. So just keep your questions in case during your research, if you come through any question that struck your mind, just write them down and wait for the next session, same time next week, Saturday. Okay, have a lovely weekend, everyone, and bye-bye. Thank you very much, God's love.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.